All right, my friends. So if you watch the past couple videos, I was talking about this idea, and I've been talking about it for about 6 months now, that leading into September, October, that's when you're going to have um, the SPY basically reach the top of what is a bear market rally. We hit the one top in August, and we've sold off since then. And a lot of people at this point, this is where they hit the panic button and they start to dump Bitcoin, or they start to go short. But having done this, um, and through experience, I've learned that it's very rare to see a pattern just break and continue lower unless there is a news catalyst. COVID is an example of a news catalyst. You see me? So Friday is an example of a news catalyst. That's where what happened. Nordstream pipeline. Okay, so the Nordstream pipeline got shut down again, which I've talked about a lot. So if you want to follow a story to understand what a news catalyst to do to trade like a real trader, to be a professional, then you understand the headlines that can move the market, right? So Friday, we had the news on the Nord Stream pipeline. It got shut down. Europe sold off, and that caused a 2% sell off on the SPY. Coming into Monday and Tuesday, like I talked about, moving sideways, okay? And so what you see today is this 2% bounce, which I had talked about, because again, it's very unlikely unless there's a news catalyst like something like a new COVID or a war, Ukraine, something has to cause this to break. That could do it, right? But that's a news catalyst. Right now, the market's being driven by data. So understanding the difference is really important, okay? So the market is preparing for next week's Fed meeting, okay? They're preparing for the rate hike. And so they have already priced in 0.75, okay? So this is the reason why, based on my trading style right now, because I am getting all prepped up with my food. I have a big garden and I have to take care of all kinds of things. I'm not day trading, so I didn't go heavy on a short here. I added to my ETF just in case we had a news catalyst. I want some exposure, but based on what I've learned through experience, most of these patterns, this is a bear market rally. You're going to see a top, and then you're going to see a bounce, probably to somewhere in here, and then you will see the move that completes the cycle, and then you break lower lows. Okay, guys, so this was your June low, and so in this bear market rally, which is a once in a lifetime opportunity for many of you, you'll get a second opportunity to short, and this is the difference between like a investment style or like day trade. So when I'm talking about this trade I'm setting up, this is one I plan on sitting in for maybe 6 months, right? And seeing where this takes us with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has never traded during a recession. But I didn't want the exposure here because the market could have broken higher. It's crazy. You can't underestimate greed. And so at this point, I didn't want a lot of exposure to the short side until I have more of a confirmation. But if I was day trading, when it's winter time, I'm trading this range right here, that kind of thing. Because we could have, on that rally, you could have come up here, right? So that's the strategy I'm employing. And so when we come into this zone, that's where I add to. When we come into that zone on the SPY, that's when I begin to add again to the ETF position, and this time as an investment, where I'm looking at it and saying as though like you would buy Tesla long. The same strategy here. I believe we're heading into a recession. I don't think Bitcoin's ever traded in a recession. I think people are very optimistic about where Bitcoin's bottom is going to be, and therefore I want to hold this ETF even if Bitcoin were to break out back up to this 25. I will just add more. Right? It's the inverse of what a lot of people do. We're inverse trading, right? You're averaging down on this position up here. So if I got filled here, I'm not worried if it breaks higher. So that leads us to today. That's the basic strategy I'm employing. And so when we get to this gold box, right now, based on what I see, that's where I'll be adding more to the ETF, right? So just to give you some perspective, you can see that Bitcoin came into this bottom almost perfectly. Now we have to wait and see, because depending on the Fed news next week, you could see Bitcoin move sideways. It's likely it moves sideways in this range. My bias is to say that we get one more break higher. Now I can't say because we don't know the volume and we don't know the news yet, but if the market gets very bullish, you could end up back at this 25,000 line, which is where I would add to my heavy short. This is where people are going to get super bullish here before they get completely wrecked. But based on other patterns, what this would end up looking like is more or less this, what you're looking for is a double bottom here, right? So I'll just draw that out real quick. So will I be going long or short right now? No. The reason is you always see these double. It's not just, there's not enough volume, there's not enough hype to just send Bitcoin soaring back up right now. So what's likely is you're likely going to see one of these. This retest of this area right here, come back down here, that's where you long, right? I like to long on the second bottom or short on the second top, right? It's just the way I do it. But that's what I'm doing right now. So when this rolls over again, everybody's going to short. That's probably where I would long. And then as this pattern completes itself based on news and what's going on at the time, let's say it does that, you often see, you see how these patterns break out in a V, and then you'll see this little retrace here. That's where I would long again. Okay, and you can, that's for, that's a little deeper video, but because at that point you have a new potential for this ETF box, right? And then I would get out of that position and flip the other direction. So anyway, that's what's up for today, guys. It's really pretty straightforward. I do want to show you the important indicators so you can start to, for the 4 people that watch this, so you can understand what is it that's going on. How would I know what's going on? Well, if I go over to the VIX today, VIX is down 8%. So that tells me that volatility is decreasing, that people are preparing for their Fed. They didn't really react to this European news too strongly. They kind of brushed it off. Now volatility came back down, and we could expect more upside. The other thing I do is I go over to oil, and what you can see is that China locked more people down. Thank God for China. They oil would be $123 a barrel if they didn't keep locking people down. Crazy world. But anyway, that's what happened here. China, more lockdowns, demand lowers, so on and so forth. Biden gets to come out and claim that he lowered oil prices. Anybody with any clarity of thinking would see that he's full of shit. And what's doing it is actually demand destruction, which is horrible for the economy. And China, who is basically in the darkness. So there you go on that. And then I want to show you, so you see your oil indicator and then TNX, and I've told you a lot about TNX, right? So you see how TNX gapped up. Now a lot of times you'll get a gap fill. They're going to need to fill this gap. If you don't know what that means, that's something to look up. But basically, now that this has run up, now that TNX has run up, and you can see it's starting to retrace, that's good for the market. So when this pulls back, which it probably will do now, that's where you see the second leg of this rally. And when this comes back down here, this is where you get the last pump for that rally. So that's another thing you can watch, is to say, okay, when TNX retraces here, we know the rally is coming to an end and it might be time to short. You see me? That's basic stuff, guys. So anyway, that's all I got to say. And oh yeah, this is called BITO. This is your ETF. And if you guys are familiar with traditional trading, you can buy put and call options on BITO, and you can play BITO, which is your Bitcoin ETF. You can play that on the traditional market, and I might get into that someday. And because you can make money on that. So check out the dollar real quick, and you can see that everything came down today, right? So all the macro indicators are basically showing us that short term, and what I mean is like 4 to 6 weeks of upside, unless there's catastrophic world news, right? Leading into October, by October 15th, it is likely the shit hits the fan. And going into wintertime, for a person who's listening, going into wintertime, the Nord Stream pipeline is going to become like the news story, like everybody knows of Bernie Madoff. They didn't know who the hell he was the day before. That's what the Nord Stream pipeline is going to be like for the world, because Europe, without that pipeline, cannot heat. They cannot produce food because their greenhouses use natural gas to produce food. On and on and on. I got tons of facts about it. But coming into winter, they rely on that gas. And if Russia wants to force the hand of a lot of people, all they need to do is cut that gas, and they cripple all the European Union. The United States, their market sells off within 24 to 48 hours, and essentially a ripple effect around the world. And they're going to do that November, December, maybe January, depending on how they want to manipulate the world. You know, how them reptilians work, I cannot always predict. All right, guys, peace.